Have you ever felt that tightening in your mind when everything hits at once? Too many decisions, too many unknowns, too many pressures stacking faster than you can process them? This cluster explores those moments when life feels unmanageable, when uncertainty grows louder than clarity, and our inner world strains under the weight of what we cannot control. These are the emotions that surface when things are too much: the pressure, the spinning, the bracing, the instinct to retreat, freeze, or push through. Welcome to the Heart's Compass, a journey through the landscapes of human emotion. When life becomes uncertain or overwhelming, our emotions respond quickly, shaped by our limits, our expectations, and the deep human need for clarity and stability. This cluster explores the feelings that rise when our capacity is stretched thin: the pressure of stress, the collapse of overwhelm, the activation of anxiety, the looping tension of worry, the retreat of avoidance, the charged intensity of excitement, the heaviness of dread, the alarm of fear, the exposure of vulnerability, and the quiet ache of invisibility. Some emotions in this cluster appear elsewhere in the compass, but they take on a different shape here, because how we feel shifts when life becomes too much. Stress, the internal pressure that builds when demands exceed our resources, tightening our focus and straining our energy. Overwhelm, the emotional flooding that happens when everything arrives at once, leaving us unable to process or prioritize. Anxiety, the restless activation that anticipates what might go wrong, amplifying uncertainty into urgency. Worry, the mental looping that circles around imagined outcomes, trying to create safety through prediction. Avoidance, the instinct to step back, shut down, or disconnect when the load feels too heavy to face. Excitement, the heightened activation that mirrors anxiety, blurring the line between anticipation and overload. Dread, the sinking sense that something difficult or painful is approaching, even when we cannot name it. Fear, the instinctive alarm that signals danger, preparing us to act even when the threat is unclear. Vulnerability, the exposed feeling that arises when we sense we cannot manage everything expected of us. Invisibility, the quiet ache of feeling unseen, unheard, or unsupported in the moments we most need help. Here, emotion is not just reaction, it's threshold. These experiences reveal how we cope, how we shut down, how we push through, and how we navigate the fragile space between capacity and collapse. Stress. Stress arrives as a tightening, a pressure that gathers behind the ribs, a quickening in the breath, a sense that the world is moving faster than you can keep up. It's the moment your mind starts counting tasks, tracking deadlines, scanning for what might fall apart if you don't hold everything together. It doesn't collapse like overwhelm or spiral like anxiety. It compresses. It creates a tension that pushes you forward even when you're already stretched thin, whispering, "There's no room to slow down, you have to keep going." Stress is the feeling that says, "Everything depends on me, and I'm running out of space." Stress is the emotional pressure that builds when demands exceed your capacity, the internal alarm that signals you are carrying more than your system can comfortably hold. It emerges when responsibilities stack, when uncertainty increases, or when the pace of life accelerates beyond what feels manageable. Stress simplifies the moment by narrowing your focus to what must be done, often at the cost of rest, clarity, or presence. At its core, stress is the emotion that says, "I need relief, but I can't stop yet." Stress is the tightening coil that forms when your mind races ahead of your body, urging you to move faster, think quicker, and hold more than you were meant to carry. It is the emotional pressure that builds in the space between expectation and capacity, between what is demanded and what is possible. Where worry loops and overwhelm collapses, stress pushes, driving you forward with urgency even when you're already depleted. It is the moment when your shoulders rise without you noticing, when your breath shortens, when your thoughts stack into lists you can't finish. Stress can distort your sense of time, making every moment feel rushed, every task feel urgent, every pause feel dangerous. It can make you overfunction, overcommit, or overextend, not because you want to, but because you fear what might happen if you don't. And yet, beneath this pressure lies a deeper truth. Stress often emerges where you care deeply, where you're trying to meet expectations, where you're striving to hold things together. It is the emotion that reveals your desire for stability, competence, and control, a desire rooted in the hope that if you can just manage everything, things will finally feel okay. Stress becomes insight when we recognize what part of us is trying to keep everything from falling apart. It becomes clarity when we understand which pressures are real and which ones we've learned to carry out of habit or fear. And it becomes resilience when we learn to pause, breathe, and release the belief that we must hold everything alone. May we learn to meet stress with compassion, not as a failure, but as a signal that something in us needs rest, support, or space. For beneath every moment of stress lies a longing for balance, steadiness, and relief, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with boundaries, presence, and care. Overwhelm. Overwhelm arrives as a collapse, a sudden flooding of thoughts, sensations, and demands that rush in faster than you can organize or respond. It's the moment when everything feels equally urgent, equally loud, equally impossible to sort through, leaving you frozen between too many choices and too little capacity. It doesn't tighten like stress or spiral like anxiety, it floods. It creates a mental and emotional whiteout, blurring your ability to prioritize, decide, or move forward, whispering, "There's too much. I can't hold all of this." Overwhelm is the feeling that says, "I've reached my limit and I don't know where to begin." Overwhelm is the emotional overload that occurs when the volume of tasks, emotions, or uncertainties exceeds your ability to process them. It emerges when responsibilities pile up, when the future feels unclear, or when too many inputs demand attention at the same time. Overwhelm simplifies the moment by shutting down your capacity to choose, often leaving you stuck between action and paralysis. At its core, overwhelm is the emotion that says, "I need space. Everything is too much right now." Overwhelm is the emotional flood that rises when the world becomes louder than your mind can organize, when every thought competes for attention and none of them feel manageable. It is the moment when your breath shortens, your shoulders slump, and your mind goes blank under the weight of too many expectations. Where stress pushes and anxiety anticipates, overwhelm stops, freezing you in place as your system tries to protect itself from overload. It is the feeling of staring at a long list and not knowing where to start, of hearing your name called one too many times, of feeling the pressure of everything and the capacity for nothing. Overwhelm can distort your sense of ability, making simple tasks feel monumental and small decisions feel impossible. It can make you withdraw, shut down, or disconnect, not because you don't care, but because your system is trying to reduce the noise. And yet, beneath this collapse lies a deeper truth. Overwhelm often emerges where you've been carrying too much for too long, where you've tried to stay strong, where you've pushed past your limits without enough support. It is the emotion that reveals your need for rest, clarity, and relief. A need rooted in the hope that if you could just slow the world down, you could find your footing again. Overwhelm becomes insight when we recognize the moment our capacity has been exceeded. It becomes clarity when we understand which pressures are urgent and which ones can wait. And it becomes relief when we allow ourselves to pause, breathe, and take one small step instead of trying to hold everything at once. May we learn to meet overwhelm with gentleness, not as a failure, but as a signal that something in us needs space, support, or simplicity. For beneath every moment of overwhelm lies a longing for calm, order, and ease. A longing that becomes more powerful when paired with patience, boundaries, and care. Anxiety. Anxiety arrives as a quickening, a restless flutter beneath the ribs, a tightening in the breath, a sense that something might go wrong, even if you can't name what it is. It's the moment your mind jumps ahead of the present, scanning possibilities, imagining outcomes, trying to prepare for futures that haven't happened yet. It doesn't collapse like overwhelm or press like stress. It spirals. It creates a looping tension that circles through your thoughts, whispering, "Be careful, be ready. Something could fall apart." Anxiety is the feeling that says, "I don't know what's coming, and I'm afraid I won't be able to handle it." Anxiety is the emotional anticipation of potential threat, the restless vigilance that emerges when the future feels unclear or unstable. It arises when uncertainty grows louder than clarity, when too many possibilities compete for attention, or when your nervous system prepares for danger that may not exist. Anxiety simplifies the moment by narrowing your focus to what could go wrong, often amplifying small concerns into larger fears. At its core, anxiety is the emotion that says, "I need certainty, but everything feels unpredictable." Anxiety is the hum of unease that rises when your mind races ahead of your capacity, trying to solve problems that haven't yet appeared. It is the emotional static that fills the space between now and later, turning uncertainty into imagined danger and possibility into pressure. Where stress pushes and overwhelm freezes, anxiety circles, looping through what-ifs, worst cases, and unfinished thoughts. It is the moment when your breath shortens, when your shoulders tense, when your thoughts scatter in too many directions at once. Anxiety can distort your perception, making neutral moments feel charged, silence feel ominous, and small tasks feel monumental. It can make you overthink, over-prepare, or overanalyze, not because you want control, but because you fear what might happen without it. And yet, beneath this tension lies a deeper truth. Anxiety often emerges where you care deeply, where you long for stability, where you're trying to protect yourself from uncertainty. It is the emotion that reveals your desire for safety, predictability, and reassurance, a desire rooted in the hope that if you can anticipate everything, nothing will catch you off guard. Anxiety becomes insight when we recognize what part of us is trying to prepare for the unknown. It becomes clarity when we separate possibility from probability, fear from fact. And it becomes steadiness when we learn to pause, breathe, and return to the present moment instead of living in imagined futures. May we learn to meet anxiety with compassion, not as a flaw, but as a signal that something in us needs grounding, certainty, or care. For beneath every moment of anxiety lies a longing for stability, comfort, and calm, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with presence, patience, and support. Worry. Worry arrives as a tightening in the mind, a small knot of concern that begins to pull at your attention, tugging you toward what might go wrong. It's the moment your thoughts drift away from the present and toward imagined futures, rehearsing possibilities, preparing for outcomes you can't control. It doesn't spiral like anxiety or collapse like overwhelm. It loops. It creates a mental hum that repeats itself, whispering, "What if this doesn't work? What if I'm missing something? What if it all falls apart?" Worry is the feeling that says, "I need to think ahead because something might go wrong." Worry is the emotional habit of anticipating potential problems, the mental rehearsal that tries to protect you by imagining what could happen next. It emerges when uncertainty feels risky, when outcomes feel fragile, or when you feel responsible for preventing things from going wrong. Worry simplifies the moment by narrowing your focus to potential threats, often magnifying small concerns into larger fears. At its core, worry is the emotion that says, "If I can think through every possibility, maybe I can stay safe." Worry is the quiet churn of the mind that rises when the future feels unpredictable, when clarity slips, and when your thoughts try to fill the gaps with preparation. It is the emotional echo of past experiences, old fears, or learned caution, replaying themselves as warnings about what might come next. Where stress pushes and anxiety spirals, worry circles, returning again and again to the same concerns, the same questions, the same imagined outcomes. It is the moment when your mind replays conversations, rechecks decisions, or rehearses scenarios you may never face. Worry can distort your sense of control, making you believe that thinking more will protect you, even when it only exhausts you. It can make you overanalyze, overprepare, or overcompensate, not because you want to, but because you fear what might happen if you don't. And yet, beneath this looping lies a deeper truth. Worry often emerges where you care deeply, where you want things to go well, where you're trying to protect what matters. It is the emotion that reveals your desire for stability, reassurance, and certainty, a desire rooted in the hope that if you can anticipate everything, nothing will catch you off guard. Worry becomes insight when we recognize what part of us is trying to prepare for the unknown. It becomes clarity when we understand which concerns are real and which ones are imagined. And it becomes relief when we learn to pause the loop, breathe, and return to what is actually happening rather than what might happen. May we learn to meet worry with compassion, not as a flaw, but as a signal that something in us needs reassurance, grounding, or support. For beneath every moment of worry lies a longing for safety, certainty, and peace, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with presence, patience, and care. Avoidance. Avoidance arrives as a quiet retreat, a subtle pulling back from tasks, conversations, or decisions that feel too heavy to face. It's the moment you look at something important and feel your energy slip away, replaced by the urge to delay, distract, or disappear. It doesn't spiral like anxiety or collapse like overwhelm. It withdraws. It creates a soft distance between you and what needs attention, whispering, "Not now. I can't handle this yet." Avoidance is the feeling that says, "This is too much, and I don't have the capacity to deal with it." Avoidance is the emotional instinct to step back from what feels overwhelming, uncomfortable, or uncertain. It emerges when tasks feel too big, when emotions feel too heavy, or when the pressure to act exceeds your ability to cope. Avoidance simplifies the moment by creating temporary space, even if that space comes at the cost of progress or clarity. At its core, avoidance is the emotion that says, "I need relief," even if it means postponing what matters. Avoidance is the quiet drift that happens when your system becomes overloaded, when the weight of responsibility feels too dense to lift. It is the emotional pause that forms when your mind seeks escape from pressure, uncertainty, or the fear of not doing something well enough. Where stress pushes and worry loops, avoidance steps back, creating distance from what feels unmanageable. It is the moment when you scroll instead of start, tidy instead of tackle, or busy yourself with anything that isn't the thing you're avoiding. Avoidance can distort your sense of time, making tasks feel larger the longer they wait, and making the return feel heavier than the retreat. It can make you feel guilty, stuck, or disconnected, not because you don't care, but because you're trying to protect yourself from overwhelm. And yet, beneath this retreat lies a deeper truth. Avoidance often emerges where you feel pressured, uncertain, or afraid of failing. It is the emotion that reveals your need for support, clarity, and manageable steps, a need rooted in the hope that if things felt smaller, you could finally begin. Avoidance becomes insight when we recognize what part of us is trying to escape pressure or protect our capacity. It becomes clarity when we understand what feels too big, too unclear, or too overwhelming to face. And it becomes movement when we learn to break tasks into smaller steps, returning gently instead of forcing ourselves forward. May we learn to meet avoidance with compassion, not as laziness, but as a signal that something in us needs rest, reassurance, or simplicity. For beneath every moment of avoidance lies a longing for ease, capability, and confidence. A longing that becomes more powerful when paired with patience, structure, and care. Excitement. Excitement arrives as a spark, a sudden lift in the chest, a quickening in the breath, a burst of energy that rushes in before you can fully understand why. It's the moment something new or promising appears on the horizon, pulling your attention forward with a mix of eagerness and uncertainty. It doesn't weigh like dread or tighten like stress. It accelerates. It creates a charged aliveness that can feel both thrilling and overwhelming, whispering, "Something is happening and I need to keep up." Excitement is the feeling that says, "Possibility is opening and I'm not sure I'm ready for it." Excitement is the emotional activation that emerges when you anticipate something meaningful, stimulating, or uncertain. It arises when opportunity expands faster than your ability to ground yourself, when change feels close, or when the future feels alive with potential. Excitement simplifies the moment by amplifying sensation and narrowing your focus to what feels promising or new. At its core, excitement is the emotion that says, "Something ahead matters, and I want to meet it, even if it feels like a lot." Excitement is the electric pulse that moves through your body when the future suddenly feels bigger than the present, when possibility opens faster than your mind can organize. It is the emotional cousin of anxiety, sharing the same quickened heartbeat, the same heightened senses, the same rush of energy, yet shaped by anticipation rather than fear. Where stress pushes and overwhelm collapses, excitement rises, lifting you toward what might be possible. It is the moment when your breath catches, when your thoughts race ahead, when your body prepares for movement, discovery, or change. Excitement can distort your sense of pace, making everything feel urgent, immediate, or too important to miss. It can make you overcommit, overextend, or overestimate your capacity, not because you're careless, but because the energy feels too alive to ignore. And yet, beneath this activation lies a deeper truth. Excitement often emerges where you long for growth, where you crave possibility, where you're ready for something new, even if you feel unprepared. It is the emotion that reveals your desire for expansion, curiosity, and aliveness, a desire rooted in the hope that the future might hold something better than the present. Excitement becomes clarity when we understand what possibility is calling to us. It becomes steadiness when we learn to channel its energy into intention rather than urgency. And it becomes growth when we allow its intensity to guide us toward what matters most. May we learn to meet excitement with presence, not to dampen it, but to hold its spark with steadiness and awareness. For beneath every moment of excitement lies a longing for expansion, discovery, and aliveness, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with grounding, curiosity, and care. Dread. Dread arrives as a weight, a slow sinking heaviness that settles in the body when the future feels too big, too unclear, or too demanding to face. It's the moment you look ahead and feel your energy drain, not because danger is near, but because you don't feel ready for what might be required of you. It doesn't jolt like fear or tighten like stress. It drags. It creates a quiet heaviness that spreads through your thoughts, whispering, "I don't know how I'm going to handle what's coming." Dread is the feeling that says, "I'm already stretched thin, and the future feels like too much." Dread is the emotional response to anticipated difficulty, the sinking sense that something challenging, draining, or overwhelming may be approaching. It emerges when uncertainty feels burdensome, when responsibilities pile up, or when you feel under-resourced for what lies ahead. Dread simplifies the moment by narrowing your attention to what feels hard or unavoidable, often making tasks seem larger and outcomes seem heavier. At its core, dread is the emotion that says, "I'm not sure I have the capacity for what's next." Dread is the slow descent of energy that happens when the future feels like a weight you're not ready to lift, when the path ahead looks long, unclear, or exhausting. It is the emotional gravity that pulls you inward, making each step feel heavier, each decision feel harder, each moment feel more demanding than the last. Where stress pushes and anxiety circles, dread sinks, pulling your attention downward as your system tries to conserve what little capacity you have left. It is the moment when your breath grows shallow, when your shoulders slump, when your mind fills the empty spaces of uncertainty with imagined difficulty. Dread can distort your sense of scale, making small tasks feel enormous and distant challenges feel uncomfortably close. It can make you hesitate, stall, or freeze, not because you expect harm, but because you fear you won't be able to manage what's coming. And yet, beneath this heaviness lies a deeper truth. Dread often emerges where you feel overwhelmed, unsupported, or unsure of your own strength. It is the emotion that reveals your longing for clarity, capacity, and relief, a longing rooted in the hope that if things felt lighter, you could finally move forward. Dread becomes insight when we recognize which parts of the future feel too heavy to carry alone. It becomes clarity when we understand what feels too big, too unclear, or too demanding, and why. And it becomes movement when we learn to break the future into smaller, more manageable steps. May we learn to meet dread with compassion, not as a sign of weakness, but as a signal that something in us needs support, pacing, or rest. For beneath every moment of dread lies a longing for capacity, stability, and ease, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with grounding, structure, and care. Fear. Fear arrives as a wobble, a sudden unsteadiness in the chest, a quick intake of breath, a sense that the ground beneath you is shifting faster than you can keep up. It's the moment when uncertainty stacks too high, when the future feels blurry, or when life moves in directions you don't feel prepared to handle. It doesn't jolt like danger fear or sink like dread. It destabilizes. It creates a sharp alertness that rises from feeling stretched thin, whispering, "I can't predict this, and I don't know if I can manage it." Fear is the feeling that says, "Everything feels unstable, and I'm afraid I won't be ready for what comes next." Fear is the emotional alarm that activates when your sense of stability or control feels threatened, not by danger, but by unpredictability, overload, or the fear of not being able to cope. It emerges when life becomes chaotic, when expectations feel too high, or when the future feels like more than you can hold. Fear simplifies the moment by narrowing your attention to what feels uncertain or overwhelming, often making possibilities feel like risks. At its core, fear is the emotion that says, "I need steadiness because everything feels too fragile." Fear is the sudden tightening that rises when the world feels too fast, too unclear, or too demanding, when you're trying to track more than your mind or body can organize. It is the emotional reflex that pulls your attention toward what might go wrong, not because danger is present, but because you're already stretched close to your limits. Where stress pushes and anxiety spirals, fear sharpens, heightening your senses as you try to regain control in a moment that feels unpredictable. It is the moment when your thoughts jump ahead, when your breath shortens, when your body braces for outcomes you don't feel equipped to handle. Fear can distort your perception, making small uncertainties feel large, simple tasks feel risky, and ordinary moments feel charged with possibility for things to go wrong. It can make you freeze, overreact, or pull back, not because you're weak, but because your system is trying to protect you from being overwhelmed. And yet, beneath this alarm lies a deeper truth. Fear often emerges where you feel unsupported, overextended, or unsure of your own capacity. It is the emotion that reveals your longing for clarity, stability, and control, a longing rooted in the hope that if you could just understand what's coming, you could finally breathe again. Fear becomes insight when we recognize which parts of our life feel unstable or too heavy to manage alone. It becomes clarity when we distinguish between real risk and the fear that rises from exhaustion or uncertainty. And it becomes steadiness when we learn to pause, breathe, and respond with intention rather than urgency. May we learn to meet fear with compassion, not as a flaw, but as a signal that something in us needs grounding, support, or space. For beneath every moment of fear lies a longing for stability, clarity, and protection, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with presence, courage, and care. Vulnerability. Vulnerability arrives as a soft unraveling, a loosening in the chest, a tremble beneath the surface, a quiet awareness that you can't keep holding everything together the way you have been. It's the moment when uncertainty piles too high, when the pace of life outstrips your capacity, when the pressure of too much exposes the parts of you that feel unsteady or undersupported. It doesn't jolt like fear or collapse like overwhelm. It reveals. It creates a tender openness that feels both honest and frightening, whispering, "I can't manage all of this on my own." Vulnerability is the feeling that says, "I am stretched thin, and I'm afraid I won't be able to keep up." Vulnerability is the emotional experience of being exposed in the face of uncertainty, of feeling unguarded when life becomes overwhelming, unpredictable, or beyond your current capacity. It emerges when your limits show, when your strength feels depleted, or when the truth of what you're carrying becomes too heavy to hide. Vulnerability simplifies the moment by stripping away the illusion of control, revealing the parts of you that need support, clarity, or rest. At its core, vulnerability is the emotion that says, "I am at my edge, and I need something I cannot provide alone." Vulnerability is the trembling openness that rises when the world becomes too loud, too fast, or too uncertain to navigate with confidence. It is the emotional softening that happens when your composure slips, when your energy drains, when the weight of responsibility becomes visible despite your efforts to stay contained. Where stress pushes and anxiety spirals, vulnerability exposes, revealing the tender truth beneath the pressure. It is the moment when your voice wavers, when your eyes fill, when your hands shake as you admit, "This is more than I can hold." Vulnerability can distort your sense of capability, making you believe that needing help is failure or that being seen in your struggle makes you weak. It can make you withdraw, apologize, or hide, not because you lack courage, but because you fear being judged for what you can no longer manage alone. And yet, beneath this exposure lies a deeper truth. Vulnerability often emerges where you've been strong for too long, where you've carried more than your share, where you've tried to stay steady in the midst of chaos. It is the emotion that reveals your humanity, not as something fragile, but as something real, honest, and deserving of care. Vulnerability becomes insight when we recognize the limits we've been pushing past. It becomes clarity when we understand what support we need and why it matters. And it becomes connection when we allow others to meet us in the places where we feel unsteady. May we learn to meet vulnerability with gentleness, not as a flaw, but as a signal that something in us needs rest, reassurance, or help. For beneath every moment of vulnerability lies a longing to be supported, understood, and held. A longing that becomes more powerful when paired with honesty, compassion, and care. Invisibility. Invisibility arrives as a fading, a quiet dimming of your presence, a sense that your voice, needs, or feelings are slipping beneath the surface of everything else. It's the moment when the world becomes so loud, so fast, or so demanding that you feel yourself shrinking inside it, unnoticed and unaccounted for. It doesn't tighten like stress or collapse like overwhelm. It erases. It creates a hollow distance between you and the people around you, whispering, "No one sees how much I'm carrying." Invisibility is the feeling that says, "I am here, but I don't feel recognized, valued, or held." Invisibility is the emotional experience of feeling unseen, overlooked, or lost within the noise of life. It emerges when your needs go unacknowledged, when your efforts blend into the background, or when uncertainty makes it hard to speak up or take space. Invisibility simplifies the moment by convincing you that your presence doesn't matter, often leading you to withdraw even further. At its core, invisibility is the emotion that says, "I don't feel like I exist in the ways that matter." Invisibility is the quiet ache that forms when you feel swallowed by the pace of life, when your inner world becomes muted beneath responsibilities, expectations, or the needs of others. It is the emotional dimming that happens when you stop raising your hand, stop sharing your truth, or stop believing your presence makes a difference. Where stress pushes and avoidance retreats, invisibility dissolves, softening your edges until you feel like a shadow in your own life. It is the moment when you speak and no one hears, when you try and no one notices, when you hurt and no one asks. Invisibility can distort your sense of worth, making you believe that being overlooked is proof that you don't matter. It can make you shrink, silence yourself, or blend in, not because you want to disappear, but because disappearing feels easier than being ignored. And yet, beneath this fading lies a deeper truth. Invisibility often emerges where you've been giving more than you receive, where you've been strong without support, where you've been present without being acknowledged. It is the emotion that reveals your longing to be recognized, valued, and seen, a longing rooted in the hope that someone will notice the parts of you that feel hidden. Invisibility becomes insight when we recognize the places where we've been overlooked or unheard. It becomes clarity when we understand what parts of us are longing to be acknowledged. And it becomes connection when we allow ourselves to step forward, speak up, or seek spaces where we are truly seen. May we learn to meet invisibility with compassion, not as a sign of insignificance, but as a signal that something in us needs recognition, presence, or belonging. For beneath every moment of invisibility lies a longing to matter, to be valued, and to be witnessed. A longing that becomes more powerful when paired with courage, honesty, and care. When things are uncertain or too much, our emotions become indicators of our limits. Stress shows us where pressure builds. Overwhelm reveals when our capacity has been exceeded. Anxiety highlights the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. Worry exposes our attempts to create safety through thought. Avoidance shows where we need rest or support. Excitement reminds us how activation can blur into overload. Dread reveals the weight of what we fear we cannot stop. Fear sharpens our senses. Vulnerability exposes our tenderness, and invisibility reminds us how deeply we need to be seen. Together, these emotions show that uncertainty is not just a circumstance, it is an internal landscape shaped by our history, our nervous system, and our unmet needs. They remind us that being too much is not a failure, but a signal that we deserve care, clarity, and compassion. As this cluster closes, may we carry forward the wisdom to honor our limits without shame, to seek support when the load grows heavy, and to recognize that uncertainty does not diminish our strength. For it is in the moments when life overwhelms us that we learn the deeper art of grounding, the quiet resilience of finding steadiness within ourselves.